Civil Service Commission. This is not our normal monthly meeting. So first order of business, we're not going to do the minutes tonight, even though you have those. I'll do those at the next meeting, which will be a regular scheduled meeting, so we're not going to review those tonight. I will open the floor for public comment on anything not on the agenda. So any public comment at this time? Commissioners, Madam City Attorney, any comments?
No, sir.
All right. First order of business is a discussion on a missed interview by Officer Woods, and I'll give a little background on that, and then we'll let commissioners or the officer or whoever speak on that. Just kind of background, as we have talked about before, we do set testing periods are set at all times based on the agenda, based on the rules and regulations. The fourth week of January is our written testing date, and then the oral interviews come after that. And we have interviewed on the exact same nights for several years now, so from that sense, the dates are known. On November the 12th, at our November meeting, we specifically set these dates in place by the actual night. We agreed on the night, voted that into place. So the dates have been known by specific dates since November the 12th. As you know, when we did the interviews 2 weeks ago, we had the one candidate that was not present, and we did not have an explanation at that time. Next morning, I came to City Hall, and Director James and I met with Director James, and he informed me of an administrative error that had occurred that does play into the particular issue, and I'll just try to explain it, and then again we'll open it up for discussion. Having said that the dates and times were known, in my opinion, in sufficient time, but on the Friday prior to the interviews, Director James sent out an email to the candidates just specifically telling them the time. So a reminder type note and giving them a reporting time. If you recall, when we voted in November, it was to go at 6 o'clock on all of them, but because we had so many fire department personnel, we felt like we could delay the police officers reporting an hour later just as a courtesy to keep them from sitting here for an hour. So the email went out on Friday the 7th at 10:36 in the morning, addressed to all of the candidates. On Officer Woods, the email went out to Josh Woods, who was or is a firefighter. Was a firefighter, as opposed to Justin Woods, a police officer. So obviously you can see same last name, same first initial, so one of the hazards of technology, I guess you can see that. So that is the issue there. Now again, does that justify, since these dates were known well in advance, that's up to the commission to decide. But that was the administrative error that occurred. Officer Woods did not receive that notice on Friday, kind of what I call the last minute notice that the other candidates did receive. So I will open the floor up now if the officer would like to speak, or if commissioners would like to speak, or anybody would like to speak. I'll open that up at this time.
I'd like to speak.
Okay, go ahead.
You keep saying that the dates were known. They may have been known to you gentlemen. Nothing was ever emailed to me or posted in the police department for me to ever know when the oral interviews were. I didn't know until Detective Campbell called me that night and asked me why I'd missed the interviews. I then spoke to Chief, and the ball got rolling on you gentlemen meeting to speak about letting me possibly interview tonight. So I had no clue until after the interview was over.
Secretary Harrington, I believe you were first.
Once we set the dates, I guess it's not our job, and it's unclear to me how officers and firefighters are informed of those dates.
May I speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
And that might be part of the issue. I don't, I was never told that I was responsible for posting dates and times. If I am, I need to know that, but, like I said, several times you've said that the dates were set. I don't know the mechanism for informing the candidates when their dates and times are. So I did not. Other than I always, and I made the same mistake that others did, I always check the emails that the officers and the candidates get to make sure that the people are on there that are eligible. And I saw Officer Wood's name there too, assuming it was Officer Woods, but it was not. But I do check to make sure that everybody gets the emails that we get, but I don't know who gets the emails to me.
So there's not a bulletin board at the police
There is,
station?
but, I mean-
But this is not on it?
No, sir. We would put it on there just as a courtesy to these officers, but I would never consider that official notification of dates and times of theirs.
How do the other officers know when to come?
Well, again, they got emails.
But before that, did they already know, should have known the dates?
Well, I would love for them to know the dates. I don't know your mechanism for letting them know that.
That looks like a weakness to me. On all our parts. So
Right.
I'm not pointing any
trying
fingers.
to shirk any responsibility here at all. And again, if it is my responsibility to notify them, I need to know that. But,
The problem to me seems like when we vote on something and put it in place, and we have an HR department, both chiefs, and the chief executive of the city here to hear those dates, that they administratively could get communicated.
I agree.
maybe that is my job.
No.
Well, I think probably if you desire for it to be communicated other than just set, it probably ought to be part of the motion that that be done in a particular way, because other than the notice, the general notice, and the minutes, I don't know that there is a means in place for, quite frankly, for this commission or for any other commission or department, for that matter.
Because we have no way to, we don't administratively go to anyone. We deal with what's done in this meeting, so we have.
Well,
no
and I think the problem
administrative
is that the chiefs really are not, other than checking perhaps, they shouldn't be part of that, the testing process. That should be just the commission. So I don't think that I think that it's probably a kink that needs to be finessed better. But I think the problem is that it's sort of worked so well in the past. There hasn't been a problem. This is the first time.
Well,
we've had a
there
problem.
have been, but not necessarily
Sure.
because of this.
Sure,
Yeah.
exactly.
Let me ask you a question if I can. The only people you interview are the people that score 70% or higher on the test. Is that correct?
Correct.
How would the chief or myself even know who scored 70% unless I got an email informing of that, which I have not received? And so we may need to set some more protocol here, but I don't think you can hold the chiefs responsible or myself for that.
No.
It was a clerical error.
I don't think anybody's holding anybody
But,
responsible.
No, I
We're
think
just
Chairman Chapman is holding us responsible. That was his exact comment, was the chiefs or the chief administrative officer of the city.
Well, it seems to me that when we leave here on that meeting and vote that in, that we would normally just communicate, these are when all the dates are going to be communicated. The written dates were communicated. So it just seems to me there would be a general posting. Again, maybe I'm wrong, but it seemed like to me when we leave there would be a general posting of these are the dates that are upcoming. And we fire department people apparently got their notice, so that's my frustration, I guess, is
Well,
and
I think-
we continue to have issues with vacations coming up and so forth. So there's whatever we need to do to get it corrected.
well, to me, the vacation is inexcusable because those dates are published, or the period of testing is published a year ahead of time.
Director James.
I think this is the first time that this has fallen through, and it's because of a clerical error that happened in my office, which was my responsibility, period. That's where the buck started, and that's where it stops. Now, I think what we need to do is, because in the past, we could send this out generally to everyone, but we have this thing now where you have to have 70 to pass. And then those individuals have to be notified or should be notified specifically that they have passed. And then again, the date needs to be reiterated to them. And that's the reason why this is such a short turnaround time in between the time that we pass, the individuals pass the test, are notified, and then to reiterate to them that this is again the next step.
Was, just for information, was the officer notified that he passed the test?
Yes.
So he was notified that he passed the written
Yes.
test. Commissioner Peterson.
I'm kind of along the lines with Madam City Attorney. I think we need to put in, I don't know what the mechanism would be, even though the dates are clear as far as when the testing is done. But the notification process, once, even if you're told, okay, you passed the written portion, and would there be some mechanism to notify the fire chief and the police chief, give them a list, as well as informing the individuals who've passed the test, and put it on the bulletin board when the interviews are? In this situation, I'm going to have a hard time saying, no, we can't interview Officer Woods. But I'd like to never see this happen again.
And I think that's also because the fact is one officer got a notification and another one didn't through no fault of his own. So I share that. I don't, am not looking to deny the officer his chance to test. I guess the frustration with me is that it seems that we just do not get these dates communicated. And I guess I assumed they were being communicated once we put them in place. Again, to me, it seems that we cannot operate outside the confines of these meetings. And once we do that, I just never give it any thought that the information was not getting communicated to the employee level. I can't.
I think that's something that HR will have to emphasize. And when I say HR, since I am HR, that is something that we will have to do. Once the dates are announced, we will send out a public notice to be posted, hopefully in the departments, that these are the dates. And then once the individuals pass the exam, we will notify them again, as we've done here, and again, that the date. But I think the first part may be, and then when the individuals come by, I guess we can, when we notify them that they passed the test, which is probably a day or two after, that we can say, again, don't forget, the next step, and this is the time for that. But then follow up again in writing. And I think we've been doing this somewhat, and it's been getting through somewhat, but this is the first time that we've had the name, and this is basically what it is. Again, don't forget, though, there's a short time between the time period that the individuals pass the test, they're notified, and then
Less than 2 weeks.
is it 2 weeks? Is it that long?
Well, it's fourth week of January. We interview the second week. Fourth week of January, and we interview second week of
Okay.
February.
So that's still, relatively speaking, a short period of time. But it's time enough for us to get the email out, and this is something that we can do, and that's something that we will have to do better. And I'm sure I will be held to task for that. So I'm not shucking that or passing that responsibility on to anyone else or the flaw in the system. That is my responsibility, and this is where it fell short.
Commissioner Peterson?
Just an HR question. When the officers come in, you notify them that they have passed the test.
Yes.
They actually come to your office for that?
They either call in or some will come by.
Okay.
For promotional exams, since there are so few of them, a lot of times they just come by the office.
Well,
but they are notified either verbally or in person.
I think it would be a good idea for them to be required to come to your office. They can initial off on whatever you need them to initial off, but also have the date of the oral interview and have them initial that. And in that way, they don't have an excuse. they initialed off my date of interviews November or February or whatever, the 24th, and have them put their initials. And
Well,
I'll take any form of a motion.
yeah. Well, to me, that's an administrative function that we shouldn't have to dictate. I mean, if we want to put that into a motion, make that,
Or a
but to me, that's an administrative issue that I just feel like once we set the dates, and maybe I'm wrong, wouldn't be in this situation if we were more involved, but we're kind of forbidden to be involved in day-to-day operation of the department, and it seemed like the process of that notification, to me, is an administrative.
Well, let me say, just because I sit for, the planning commission and the city council who do the same type of thing. But where the issue here is, and I appreciate Director James for being so frank about it. I think that in my mind, the problem is that there's no one in the audience responsible for that administrative effort. Mr. James attempted to do it. It was just, the fact that we have a common last name and the same first initial. Otherwise, it wouldn't have even been a problem. And I think Mr. Neri handles all notifications for the Planning Commission, any signs that have to be posted, he does that. There's no one sort of in the audience who picks that up. The mayor doesn't say, Mr. Neri, you need to go post that sign. So I think pointing out the problem will make it be dealt with. I think it's important for us to, I don't know that it's necessary for the commission to pass a resolution or a motion saying exactly how it's done, but I think the fact of the problem itself is evidence enough that something else needs to be put in place. And the only, I think, decision for the commission is whether or not to go forward with the interview.
Any other question? All right, I'm going to make a motion that we approve testing the officer
Interviewing?
Woods, or I'm sorry, interviewing Officer Woods. So that is the motion, that we approve interviewing Officer Woods. Do I have a second? Have a motion, second. Any more discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed say no. Okay. So Officer Woods, we will schedule you last tonight. We'll do the other three candidates first. And the other issue in regard to his interview, I'm going to ask if Commissioner Durham will recuse himself from that interview. And the reason I'm doing that commissioner was not here for the other interview with your competitor, so to speak, with the other officer. And in fairness, I think the same four commissioners should conduct this interview. So Commissioner Durham has agreed to recuse himself. So you will participate in all the other interviews tonight, but then will not in that one. All right, so that has gotten that taken care of, and again, I just I apologize. It's just a point of frustration. Is what it is. All right, anything else before we move further? All right, entertain a motion to go into executive session to do the oral testing for fire department captain and police lieutenant.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Motion and a second. Before we do that, we'll do our normal housekeeping. We will have a motion to come back into public session afterwards, but we will not discuss anything, so anyone's welcome to stay if they'd like, but it will just be a motion to adjourn once we do that. The candidates will go to the blue room. Director James, are you going to stay for that, or we do like we did before? So I will just come get each of you at the time. And again, we have done this by draw like we've done in the past, where we put everybody's name in the hat, other than you. We've got you last specifically, but the others went into a hat, and we drew them out in the order that they will go. So if we don't have anything else,
We need to vote.
we'll vote into executive session. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed say no. All right, we'll go into executive session. All right.